Most of you, when asked about a classic football boot, will probably think of the Copa Mundial, but I bet there's only a few of you who are familiar with the Umbro Speciali. The Speciali dropped in 1992 at the height of Umbro's reign in English and European football. This specific model that I have is the Umbro Speciali 24, which is basically just the iconic 1998 Speciali. I want to give a huge thanks to Umbro. While this is not a sponsored video, they did send these boots out to me for free to do a review on. I had a good time doing it, and they also sent me some cool gear as well. I spent a long time reviewing these boots. I think it took me around a month. I wore them coaching, I wore them reffing, I wore them to some pickup games, I wore them at my club practices, so I really did get a good feel for this boot. So let's get into this review. I will say off the bat, this upper reminds me a lot of the Copa Mundial in the way it's stitched. It has a very similar look, and it kind of has a little bit more of a bulky feel like the Copa Mundial does. What's very unique about this boot is the fact that it's made of goat leather. It is the only boot anywhere on the market that you can get this kind of leather. I was warned early on before I got these boots that I wouldn't want to wear them because it's stiff, but honestly it's not. I found that it's softer than I was told it would be. While it is not as soft as K leather, I would say that it does break in fairly decently around an hour, hour and a half. I found it really fit to my foot. And honestly, I would compare this to calfskin leather. There's not really a huge difference when it comes to the two. Another feature this has, like most classic football boots, is going to be this fold over tongue. The only annoying thing about it is it does not secure itself. However, it does kind of have some stitching around the areas and kind of helps keep the tongue bent-ish, at least when you're looking at it. Now when you're playing, it does flop around a little bit, but that's kind of to be expected. What is cool is the tongue is made completely of leather, but I did have the issue of tongue slippage, which is always annoying. Now I do have wide feet, which is usually the culprit of this. So just be aware that if you don't tie your boots super tight, that you will get this tongue slippage. One thing you could do to get rid of this is tie the laces around the tongue. So you go underneath the boot each way, and then you tie your kind of knot on top of the laces. I did this once, I kind of liked it, but it was towards the end of me testing these. So do it as you will, as you please. I don't think you'll really get an advantage either way, but if you do hate that tongue flopping, then that'll keep it secured. Also, I believe there are a couple cobblers in the United States and in England that will put an elastic band, so if you want more of that Adidas Predator vibe with the strap on the tongue, that is something you can do. Now, the stud layout on this sole plate is exactly what you'd expect from any classic football boot. It is basically the same exact studs that are on the Copa Mundial, some of the older Lottos, and it's the Memory Flex sole plate as well. It was hard for me to get a lot of information from Umbro on exactly, every single detail on this boot, but from what I understand, the Memory Flex sole plate is not a very snappy or springy sole plate that you'll see on speed boots these days. It's not, snapping super crazy or anything like that, but it does help to really keep the sole plate rigid for the most part and kind of intact and just solid, which if you're somebody who's wearing a classic football boot, you're wearing it because you like the classic football boot. You don't want any of these sprint technologies or carbon fiber, all this crazy stuff. You just want a boot that's gonna do you solid, and that's what this sole plate does. Now, this sole plate did perform great on grass. I wore it, I think 3 or 4 times on grass. Most of the time this was spent on turf. I wore them at my club practices, and it did well. I have no real issue with this boot at all. It didn't really snag. It's not an aggressive sole plate. It's all really just conical, and that's what most classic football boots were. Even before turf, it's kind of just a really circular, really simple shape, and that's kind of what you want from a boot like this. That's what anybody who has grown up and only plays in classic boots wants, is just this kind of neutral sole plate. So overall, for what the boot is, it performed exactly how I thought it would, and that is very well. Now for sizing, I did get my 9 US. I was told I could go true to size with these, and even though I hate that term, I just went with it. And it's kind of funny that I can wear a 9 US in Umbro, but in the kind of more classic styles like the Copa Mundial and the Adler boots, I am an 8. So it's just kind of a really weird gap in sizing. So I would kind of go off, I would say your Nike sizing, I guess, is the best thing that this equates to. So if you wear a 9 in Tiempos, I would get a 9 in these and a 9 in the Premiers. Anything in 9, you should be fine wearing these. I also had no pain when wearing these boots. I didn't have any sort of real stud pressure either. They fit, for the most part, pretty well. The only real issue, and I mentioned this just a little bit earlier, is that they are very bulky, and that is what most classic football boots are. The Copa Mundial, these, the older Lottos, some of the original Nike boots, they're all just a lot thicker than modern day boots. And as someone who's really only grown up with the modern football boots, it's kind of hard to understand how boots were this thick back in the day, but that doesn't mean it's not comfortable or it performed any worse. It's just something that you really can notice. And as for comfortability as a whole, the padded leather upper is nice. Like I said, it is goat skin leather. It is a bit stiffer than K leather, but feels very similar to calfskin leather, meaning that it's very similar to the Copa Gloro, the Nike Premiers, the takedown leather Tiempos. It is very similar to that. Again, not quite, but basically, and especially since I've worn these for over a month and really broken them in, it is overall comfortable and you won't have any sort of pains, issues. They stretch fairly well, but they're also not overstretching like K leather boots, so they do hold their shape. So overall, very comfortable boot, hugs your foot well, pretty secure. Now, in terms of the durability, this boot did exactly what I thought it was gonna do, and the fact that it held together. There's no sort of sole separation anywhere. There's only these slight hints of maybe where I kicked the ground a little too hard or caught a stud and it kind of just took away some of the whiteness of this leather. But overall, this thing is a tank. It is a very solid boot. If you're buying a pair of these, you're gonna have them for a very long time, just like most old school leather football boots are. They're just durable as heck, and I really think that you're gonna not have to buy a new pair of classic football boots for at least a couple of years. Now, this is something I've saved for the end, and that is going to be what is the worst feature of this boot, and that is the price. These boots retail at $250. What? And I feel that for a classic leather football boot, it is way too expensive. The Copa Mundial has gone up in price. It used to be $100, then it went to $120, $150, and now they're $180, which is still crazy for the Copa Mundial because it's just a simple leather boot. These being $250 to me seems like a nostalgia grab, but Umbro is not as popular in the football boot market as it was in the 90s. So yes, there are people who are going to want and only wear this boot, but for $250, I just don't think that it should be priced this high. It is a great football boot. It's going to last you a very long time. But when there's other boots on the market that are similar in durability and nostalgia, old school, classic, everything like that, it's gonna be kind of hard for someone to wanna choose these. So if you can find a discount code somewhere or pick a pair of these up, you won't be disappointed. The downfall is the price, basically is what I'm saying. So just be aware of that, and hopefully in the future, Umbro continues to make these, but drops the price a bit. Overall, I had a great time wearing the Umbro Speciali 24. I really thought that it's a nice boot that Umbro still is keeping alive, especially when we're not seeing as many people go for the Copa Mundial and the older Lotto boots, and it is really nice. The goat skin leather was a good touch to it, and even at my club practices, I had a bunch of guys complimenting me on these, so shout out to them for recognizing classic football boots and being kind of boot heads. Will this be a boot that I'll wear in games? Probably not. I just don't like boots that are this kind of bulky, and I more so go for a lot thinner boots either way. But I definitely will wear these coaching again. I will definitely try to wear these reffing because they are nice to ref in for long durations of time. I just have to find a place that allows me to continue to wear white boots instead of black, but that's just a personal issue. And if you're thinking about these boots, try to find them cheaper if you can. Find a discount code somewhere because $250 is a lot, but I don't think you'll be disappointed. And that's all I have for you guys today. If you enjoy football boot reviews, videos, facts, anything like that, make sure to check out the rest of the channel for all the sick videos that are on there. And with that, I will see you guys in the next review.